So, hello, ladies and gentlemen. We have a very special guest today. Her name is Megan. She is a brand storyteller and copywriter, delivering memorable brand through stories. So, welcome, Megan, to this Akshay Dhone Show video podcast.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
So, I have given introduction, like short introduction about you, but it would be really great if you give your introduction, like little bit briefing about yourself.
Yeah, totally. So I am Megan. I live in California. I have been in the marketing world for the last about 5 years, but I started really getting into copywriting in the last 2 years. And then from there, just kind of ventured out into more of the branding space and really enjoying that and really loving telling people stories. That's kind of like, for me, that's my purpose. Like that's something that I really feel called to, is helping people tell their stories well. And so being able to work with people and companies to do that has been really, really, really great. So if you have anything about storytelling, that is my jam. I love talking about it. So I'm just excited to be here today.
Yes, awesome. That's really great, because you know what, storytelling and copywriting is really very important in real life as well. Like if like whenever we want to eat something, we don't eat it raw. We first cook the food and then we consume it. Right? The same way, I also feel that if you have a story to tell, if you have something to offer to someone, instead of telling directly, you should hook them, right? And it's not that easy, let me tell you, Megan. It's not that easy, but you are doing it. So I'm really, really excited for that. Now, see, whenever we start our journey, Megan, there are reasons behind it. Like why we start our journey. You might have heard that people have a reason that why they started the journey. So I wanted to ask you, in which year you started your journey, Megan, and why you started this journey? Why only copywriting?
Yeah, great question. So I'll back it up a little bit, give a little bit more context. So I went to school, I went to college, and I studied applied health science. So I was studying sports medicine, kinesiology, in a lot of biology classes, chemistry classes. And, I enjoyed what I was learning, but I didn't necessarily love where it brought me to in my career. So I worked for an orthopedic surgeon for a year and loved talking to people and getting to know people and hearing like, okay, like what brings you in today? Like, what's your injury? What's going on? Like, how can we help you? And I loved that. I loved connecting with people, but I realized very quickly that medicine wasn't necessarily the right path for me. And so I shifted from there, and I've always loved writing. I think a lot of people like to write. For me, it was kind of like an escape as a kid. And so I went back to school. I got my master's degree in digital media and storytelling, which is super fun. A lot of people ask what that means. And really, it was just focusing on like video production and any way to tell a story well, like visually or written, like through script or some things like that. So that is how I got my start. Really in like the marketing world, kind of launched me from there, and then had different roles within marketing over the last few years. And then really in like the last 2 years, started on my own and running this business, copywriting business and branding business. So it's been a journey, but I love seeing other people pursue their passions, because I know for me, that's been a really big part of my life too. And moving away from medicine, not that it wasn't fun, like I enjoyed learning about it, but then taking what I learned there and bringing it into communications.
Exactly. And you know what? We learn from our mistake as well. Like when I also started, Megan, you know what? I started an event business. That was not my cup of tea. I have invested around, you can say, I would not say some around dollars, but I have invested over 7 months. I didn't got anything. Later on, I understood my public speaking is the key. I can speak confidently and I can teach to people. So sometimes it happens that whenever you're doing something, and if it's not your cup of tea, you would really know from inside, okay, this is not my cup of tea. I would really switch my niche, right? And one thing you also said very well, that you love connecting with people. So let me tell to our audience as well, Megan is really good at connecting with people. Like we first had a video call on Google Meet as well, and I was unknown to her. She made me so comfortable with her talk. So let me tell you, this skill is very rare and not so common. inhuman, right? So you have that. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
my next question is, whenever we start our journey, whenever we are doing something out of the box, Megan, we face criticism, we face negativity. I know it's like 3%, yeah, 4%, 5%. But how you handle criticism, how you handle negativity, Megan?
Oh man. Well, that's a tough question. I think with criticism, it's hard not to take it personally, especially as creative people. Like if we're in the creative world, it is so much of our heart is like coming out on paper or coming out in a story, and it's hard not to take it personally. So growing up, I was an athlete, and I think for me, I had to learn pretty quickly right away, like, okay, if there's feedback coming in from a coach, if a coach is saying like, hey, like I need you to do this differently, or I need you to change this up a little bit, like from their perspective, like they're an authority figure and they're looking at me and they're saying, I know what's best for you and I want to encourage you to get better. And here are some ways that you can do that. And so I try to look at it in that way of thinking like, okay, here's this person, they're giving me this feedback, and whether or not they're an authority figure over me or not, like I'm still going to try and extract at least something good from what they're saying. And I mean, to be fair, there could be actually like no merit to what they're saying. They could be just blackballing you or just trolling you or whatever, right? Like they're just saying like really negative things. But I would just really encourage people to look at it and say like, okay, is there anything good that I can pull from this feedback to actually then implement? Like we are not going to be improving if we're not asking for feedback or if we're not taking it and then actually doing something with it. Otherwise, it's just words. It's flat words. So that would be my advice. And that's how I tend to look at criticism.
Exactly. And you know what, Megan, I also personally feel people who are trying to pull us down, they're already below us. That's why they're pulling us down, right? And whenever, like I am most active on Instagram as well and LinkedIn as well. So the negative comment which I sometimes get on Instagram, maybe though they have zero post, zero followers on Instagram, they don't have any ID, like they don't have their identity only, right? And one thing I ask to myself is, either I know that person, the answer is no. Either he or she is feeding me, answer is no. Then why I need to take that criticism, why I need to take that negativity personally? Because I don't know that person personally, right? And you said it very well also, right? And
yeah, it's hard to, I mean, when everything's online, when everything's digital and we're not seeing a person, like we don't really have all of that information too. Like we're not picking up on like body language or other things. Like if we know someone and they're saying that to our face, it's way different than somebody on a computer behind a screen saying something to us that we've never met before. Like it's hard to differentiate that and to take it with a grain of salt, because yeah, it's hard. It's just, criticism should be good, but it doesn't always come from a good place.
Exactly. And you know what, whenever we start our journey, whenever we are trying something out of the box, definitely you will face challenges. I know you also have faced a lot of challenges because you were into some other niche, then you changed your niche. So tell me, Megan, like what are some biggest challenge which you faced at initial days?
Oh man, any challenge. I think a lot of it stems from myself. Like if you're thinking about, just for me and my story, like I'm coming from this ideal of like, I want to be perfect, or not that I know that I can never be perfect. I know that for a fact. I'm here in my head. But when I try to create something or do something big, like I want it to be so meaningful and so impactful that I will just keep everything just like rolling around in my head. All of the thoughts, all the different ideas are just constantly churning in my head. And I feel like it has to be absolutely like perfectly and refined, this like great gem before I share it with anyone. And so I get stuck in kind of like planning mode. So then just for example, the other day I was asking a friend, I was like, hey, I have this idea and I don't know like if it makes sense at all, but she's a really trusted friend. And I talked to her and she was like, oh, well, have you thought about this? And I was like, no, that was a total blind spot. And I told her, I was like, I need to start sharing more Like I need to start sharing more of my ideas sooner, because I get stuck in this pattern of like thinking like, oh, this is going to be really great, but it's not done yet, or like it's not there yet. And then it just doesn't become anything because I get stuck in this pattern where it's just constantly trying to think through and make sure it's perfect, but it's never going to be perfect. So I think my challenge is just like start sharing your ideas, especially if you're a quiet person like I am. Like if you're a big thinker, start sharing, because that is going to probably solve a lot of your problems.
And personally, I also think that if you're connecting with people at their personal level, definitely your brand will grow, right? Because when you're connecting with people personally, you are not only connecting them through social media, you're connecting them, you're helping them, they're consuming your content as well, right? So that comes to my next question: is really personal branding important on social media? If yes, then why?
Oh my gosh, it is so important. I mean, I'm coming from an entrepreneurial background where social media, like especially LinkedIn, like that's my playground. That's where I find all my clients. That's where I like build community and meet great people. So building my personal brand on there has been critical for my professional well-being as well as personal, really. I would recommend anybody, like if you're not on LinkedIn yet, do it. Like the more you can consistently share who you are, what you're good at, and building credibility and trust with your community, like the better it's going to be. And if you work alone, like I do, right now, at least, there's so much benefit from connecting with people. It's kind of like you have coworkers, whether they're in the same city as you or they're around the world. Like you just have coworkers that are doing the same things as you or doing really cool things, not in the same industry, and they're just great people to connect with. So I would recommend totally just diving in, investing in it. You won't regret it.
I completely agree with you, Megham, because you know what? In our journey, strangers plays a very important role for our success. Our relatives, our friends, they might be supporting us, but not at that level through which strangers are doing it, right? We connect with them over LinkedIn, we connect them with Instagram and all kind of stuff. They are consuming your content every day. And when they are consuming your content every day, I personally think there is a connection building between you and that person. And when they start messaging you on LinkedIn or on Instagram, you don't know that, yes, this person is consuming my content. But meanwhile, they are consuming your content daily and they are building a relationship. Because I also came to know about that, because when I was in 2021, I was doing a free sessions, free calls, and I used to connect with people. I used to connect with my followers. They used to say me, hey, Akshay, I'm connected with you since 1.5 hours. You're posting good content. I was not knowing them, but they're consuming my content. That's why I am able to build a brand with them. And that's why I'm able to connect with them. So that's a great thing. Like personal brand is really, really very important.
Totally. And there's so many, like you said, like there's so many lurkers. I think LinkedIn calls them lurkers, that are just consuming your content, but not engaging with it. Like they know who you are. They associate the terms in different industries or different terms that you're using. Like for me, storytelling or writing, like people are associating those terms with you. So anytime that those topics come up, they're going to be like, oh, public speaking. I got Akshay, he's in my community. Like I know that he talks about that all the time. So the more that you share content, like just because people aren't necessarily engaging or commenting on it, doesn't mean that they're not consuming it. They still are there and they're picking up on it. And like you said, like you are creating value for these people and building a good relationship, hopefully that can flourish into something where they actually reach out to you or comment. Yeah.
Exactly. And removing negative people from our life is really very important. Like I still remember, yes, yesterday I saw one of your posts that you have removed 1,000 plus connections from LinkedIn who were not engaging. And the best advantage you got is now you are getting best engagement, right? So can you just share a little bit about that? Like why you exactly need to remove the negative people or those who are not engaging?
Yeah. So I started off on LinkedIn about 2.5 years ago, just starting to get pretty consistent. And then in the last year in particular, got like even more consistent and really disciplined in doing it. But when I first started 2 years ago, I was connecting with anyone and everyone. I was like, I just want to like grow my community and grow my followers, or just grow and like building connections with different people. And so I realized over time that as I was building and trying to focus my content for specific people, that not everyone that I was connected with would be benefiting from that content, nor the content that they were sharing I wasn't benefiting from it either. So I went through all of my contacts, like you said, and all my connections, and I just started looking at their profiles and it's like, hey, I haven't really been engaging with their content, or they don't match my ideal client, or like we haven't connected offline yet. And I don't really see that happening in the future. Like kind of looking through those different parameters and checking off and saying like, okay, like this is just someone that I don't think will be, like, I don't think they benefit from my content anymore. So I'm going to pull us a solid and just remove the connection and then move on. So to your point though, like it has been really helpful for me in my engagement. Because I do want people that are showing up and building their own community and building their own content, but also those people that will be engaging with mine. Like it's a two-way street, really. Like I want dialogue with people, not just on LinkedIn, but also offline.
Exactly. And you know what? When you're engaging with a person, there are two-way communication. You are learning from their content and they are learning from your content, right? Because I personally think whenever you are writing post on LinkedIn, it is so creative, first thing. And the second is it is relatable also. But sometimes many people who are starting out on LinkedIn or they are having their own startup, they make so many mistakes. So when you started your journey, Megan, what mistakes you did and how to avoid those mistakes while starting up?
Good question. So as I alluded to earlier, I like to plan. I am a perfectionist, or I should say former perfectionist, growing out of it. But I think for me, what was really helpful in trying to avoid mistakes at all costs was I observed people that I really enjoyed their content. So for example, Justin Walsh, he's really popular. A lot of people like his content. He's very knowledgeable. Tara Horstmeyer, she's also super creative, super genuine in how she writes. It's almost like you can hear what she's saying, like her voice. I've never met her, but like I feel like I just know her, you know, like she's just very relatable. And so I started following these people and seeing like how they were crafting their posts, the kinds of formatting that they were using, whether it was short form, long form, photos. And a lot of people were using the very readable or scannable posts where it was like one line kind of thing. And so I started observing. That was like my main form of gathering information to understand like, okay, what is LinkedIn like? Like, how can I avoid mistakes based off of like these larger accounts that are just attracting a lot of engagement? And so I observed a lot of people. I connected with people that were in my industry, but to actually create content, I made a lot of mistakes starting out. I talked about probably, like, I don't even know. I didn't even have a direction. Like I didn't think about a strategy for my content. It was just kind of like, all right, today, what do I want to talk about? And then I just started writing. And like there was some engagement there, but not as much as I would have liked. And I did not have a very consistent posting schedule. It was kind of like whenever I came up with something, I would post. So all that to say, I learned over the years and kind of got into a better pattern for posting, as well as like content strategy and figuring out like the right things to post about. I'd say like picking 2 to 3, maybe 5 at most different topics to talk about, and then talk about it every day or 3 times a week or whatever is feasible for you. And then just start posting regularly and talk about those things, and people will start associating you with those things. So there are a lot of mistakes to make, but don't let that discourage you from starting, because that is really how you're going to learn. It's just through experience.
Definitely. Experience teaches us a lot of new things, which nothing can teach us, right? So that's all my questions, Megan. And I hope you also enjoyed this video podcast. And one more thing, like if people wants to connect with you, how they can connect with you. You can explain about that. And the second thing is, if a person who wants to grow their business or brand, how they can connect you. You can explain about your services in short, or any product do you have, you can share it in short.
Yeah, for sure. So if you guys want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn all the time, Megan McKinley. Just look me up, you'll find me.
I will share the link in the description on YouTube. I will share the link.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. But as far as my services go, I have copywriting and branding. I think what would be most helpful maybe for the branding piece, personal branding, is I help people write their LinkedIn profiles and then help them kind of craft, like what I was just talking about, those brand pillars or content pillars of like, okay, here are 3 things that I want to be talking about, whether that's my skills and expertise or things I'm really passionate about, really getting focused in on those 3 and then starting up with that strategy. So it's, in a nutshell, it's kind of like looking at your LinkedIn profile, refreshing it, writing it so that it's relatable to your target audience, and then coming up with this content strategy that will work for you, that can build your brand. So that's kind of the main one that I think would be most helpful for anyone trying to build their personal brand.
And if anyone who is listening this, they want to work with Megan, I will share the LinkedIn link of Megan in the description, and you can directly connect with Megan on LinkedIn, and you can share your requirements, and Megan would be really grateful to help you out. So Megan, one last message to our audience who is listening this. Any one last message?
Oh my goodness. It's a great question. I would just say, if you are thinking about building your personal brand, I think a lot of it comes down to this question that we all ask ourselves often is like, what is my story? And do I actually have a story worth sharing? And I think when we ask ourselves that question, there is a lot of shame and guilt that comes in, because we're like, oh, I don't think I have a story worth sharing, or I have something, but I don't know if it's going to relate with my audience or resonate with them. And I would just encourage you, like, first of all, you have a story to tell. Second of all, how you tell that story says a lot about who you are. And I think that it's like one of the best journeys that you can go down. I'll end with this quote from Brene Brown, but she says, owning your story is one of the most important things that you can do. And I 100% believe that, because it is so much of a personal journey as well as a professional journey that you can have. And understanding who you are and understanding your story is life. It's not just selling to people, but it's just who you are as a person and how you relate to people and how you can connect and have deep, meaningful relationships with people. So you have a story and it's worth sharing. And that's what I want to leave you with.
Thank you so much, Megan, for your valuable time. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And you explained each and every question in detail. So I hope people are going to love this, Megan. And I will share this within 2-3 days on YouTube as well. And also, I would like to say to you that it was my pleasure to have you, because there are very few people who are open to share these things. So I'm blessed that you are here, and I wish you personally all the best for your future projects, and may you get success and achieve all the things you want in your life, Megan.
Actually, thank you. I really appreciate that. And it's been really fun to chat with you and talk about storytelling and branding and all of that. I definitely have really enjoyed our time together.
Thank you so much, Megan.